Hey, I am making this video because I want to showcase my live rig. I got Neural DSP and Reaper working on my Steamdeck, and I am using these for my live shows. I was playing at NAMM with this and it worked really well. There is not a lot of information online about this, so I really want to make this video for all of you. It really surprised me how well it worked. For instance, I am using the lowest buffer size on the Steamdeck, which is 16 samples, and even though it's so low, it's not crackling or doing any weird glitches. And as you can see, everything is functional. I can move through the session and I can press record if I want. And I can even mute tracks if I want. I can also see all of the mixing console in case I need to tweak anything, but I made sure I didn't have to. So the battery is really good. Right now I have everything running and I am recording, and I have 6 hours and 7 minutes of battery expected with 88% of battery left. I'm gonna show you how I did it, and please, if you find a way of making this setup better, send me a message or on Instagram or anything and let me know, because I'm really invested in this. So the first thing for this setup is installing Windows in a very small partition of the SSD. You can do it without installing Windows if you are very good with Linux, but I've never used Linux before, so I tried and I spent so much time and I just couldn't understand everything that I was finding, and that's why I felt way more comfortable with Linux, and especially because my performance was a few days after I got the Steamdeck. The first thing that I did was enabling dual booting on Windows, so I followed this tutorial. I followed everything this guy said because I don't know anything about SteamOS, and he had a very good video. I'm gonna link the video in the description if you want to see it yourself and follow the same steps that I did. Also, like he says in the description of his video, when you're installing Windows, make sure you click on where it says previous setup, and if it asks you to delete everything, click no, otherwise it might delete every single thing in your drive. Anyway, it took me about 30 minutes to set up dual booting and to make a partition big enough for Windows. I am using the Steamdeck OLED of 1 terabyte. It took me about another 30 minutes to install Windows. If you're gonna install Windows, I really recommend you to install a modified Windows version, Debloated Windows. So I installed the Debloated version of Chris Titus. He has an insane tool, and it's a very light installation of Windows, and I think this is very important for the Steamdeck specifically because it's so limited. So basically this modified Windows version removed all of the bloatware and all of the garbage Windows comes with. So for example, all of that Copilot stuff. I'm gonna link the video because he has a very good guide on how to do it. After I installed Windows, I installed Reaper. Also, it's easier and more straightforward to use Reaper. Everything is easier to find than in Cubase, at least that was my experience. I will just use Reaper forever. I installed Reaper and then I installed Neural DSP. As you know, I use Archetype Rabea for all of my videos, so that's what I did. I installed Archetype Rabea. So my Steamdeck recognizes my audio interface just as any other computer. After you install the drivers, everything works as expected. And all of my plugins are here. All of my EQs, so for example, I have FabFilter, I have it here. And I can apply FabFilter Pro Q to my guitar channel. It's really interesting because you can't really do that on a pedal board or anything. Everything is different. So it felt really comfortable to have my home setup in a live setting. It's really interesting and it made me really comfortable. And because you already have a trackpad, it's basically like a laptop's trackpad. It's very easy to control the mouse. The way you control Reaper is by going into Steam itself. Steam lets you configure every single button. So basically, if you go into Steam Big Picture and then you go to Settings and then you go to Controller, you can see at the very bottom the desktop layout. That's basically your desktop or your computer controller. You can see all of the buttons and then you can choose whatever you want them to do. It could be as complicated as you want. So you can see that B is the escape key and Y is the recording shortcut for Reaper. So if you go to Actions, like the Actions menu on Reaper, and you click on Show Action List, you can see a list of every single shortcut that you can assign on Reaper. It is very interesting because it's also a touch screen. So I have my mix console in here and I can move all the parameters that I want with the touch screen, which is very nice. Okay, the one problem that I had is that Neural DSP or sometimes guitar plugins are just very big for the screen of the Steam Deck, so you can't really do much. You can't click on the buttons that are in the corners. If you want to fix it, you just have to go to your effects, and before adding the effect, you right click it and then you click compatibility settings and you enable high DPI compatibility. Once you enable that, it lets you resize the plugin however you want. It of course depends on the plugin and how old it is. With that, I had my session. What I did was very simple. I just routed every single part of the mix that was going through front of house to output number 1, and then I routed every single part of my in-ears to output number 2. So that would be the metronome basically. So I just have one slider for front of house and one slider for in-ear mix as well. I also made sure to hide all of the other tracks because I didn't want to accidentally move them or delete them. I'm too paranoid with it, so you can't see them here. You can only see them on the mixing console. As you can see, these are all of my envelopes, and envelopes is the name Reaper uses for all of the automations. And these are all of the reverb and delay and whatnot automations that I have on my tracks. That's how I played live. That's how it worked. This is really fascinating for me, and this is actually what I'm using live. Because I locked the session, I can't really accidentally move anything. As I said, I am really impressed of how well this works, and I find it extremely reliable. I will keep using it and I will keep doing things with it because I really like it. It's very portable and I don't have a laptop, so this is basically my laptop. It has even lower latency than my desktop computer, and I think that is just because Reaper is light and also because the Steam Deck is very powerful for the price that you pay. I am extremely happy about Steam Deck. You guys know that I love to go out and write music in other places, so this is like really good for these. Oh, by the way, this is my cable for the in-ears. These are two 5 meter cables. So I have a headphone extension and a guitar cable, and they are stuck to each other with cable management mesh. You go on stage and then you plug in your guitar cable, but then you also have an extra slot for your in-ears. I can put this inside the guitar case. I don't even need an extra bag. I just put everything inside the guitar case and it fits. Anyway, that's how I did it. Goodbye.